Today, I'll review the Finnish war film Tali Ihantala, or The Battle for Finland, or 1944, The Final Defense. This movie has many titles, but I'll just go by original title, which is Tali Ihantala. It is about the Continuation War, which was during World War II between the Finnish and Soviet forces. The war had gone on since 1941, and after the failed German offensive against the Soviet Union, the Soviets were on the offensive, and all Axis forces in Russia were retreating. And here is where the movie picks up. And the movie also gives a quick history lesson in the beginning, telling all the details. So the Finnish are being pushed back and are making a stand at Tali Ihantala. This is a war film that's very different from others in the sense of characters and story, because this movie, instead of showing one character's story, it shows different people throughout the battle. We get to see from the tanker's perspective, the regular soldiers' perspective, the commanders, the pilots, and even the volunteer forces helping out the Finnish. So don't expect a gripping story about one person or group. Instead, prepare for small moments in the overall battle for Tali Ihantala. So we get to experience the vastness of this huge battle. So it has no real story than to show the battle from different perspectives, and most characters come and go. The movie has a lot of action and most of the time few calm moments, and even with the lack of story, there are good parts in it, like a scene that shows the language barrier between the Swedish volunteers and Finnish troops. The Finnish officer is showing how to use a Panzerfaust and explaining how the flame that comes out from the rocket is deadly, and thus should not have the rear of the weapon pointing towards yourself. The problem is that the Swedes don't understand Finnish, and later on, one of them dies because of it. Small moments like these are spread out throughout the whole movie, and it gives it some type of character. Historically, the movie does not have any flaws, and it's all historically correct, from the places and uniforms, and even on how the Finnish used the swastika before the Germans. The movie shows the state of the Finnish army during 1944, where they had to scavenge tanks to keep up with the Soviets. Heavily outnumbered in every way, the battle should have been an easy win for the Soviet Union, but the Finnish held the line, resulting in a defensive victory for Finland and the beginning of peace talks between Finland and Soviet. It is a very ambitious film by Åke Lindman, and its problem being a limited budget, because in real life it probably would have been a lot more tanks and more soldiers. But even with the limited budget, they do manage to make it feel like a big battle. An overall decent film showing the Finnish side during World War II, and even for a lack of story, an interesting film. And as a half Finn, it's always fun to see your own country in a movie. I would not recommend it for everyone, as it requires some type of knowledge of the Finnish during World War II, and it could be confusing for the average viewer to know all the historical people and events. But if you're interested in the Continuation War or the Finnish front, I would say give it a watch.